Hi everyone, so this will be part 1 of 5 in terms of ketamine infusions. Each day I'm just going to document my experience, and the purpose overall of these videos is just to allow other people to see what I've experienced and gained and what worked and didn't work for myself. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so unfortunately I've just got to get on with this video. The traffic is a bit loud and noisy and the lighting isn't great, but needless to say, I'll just get straight into it. The areas I'm going to touch on are just a brief description about me and how I could be relatable to yourself. Small sort of description about how the actual infusion works. Obviously it might be different at different clinics. And then finally, just a few analogies and what my findings were, and then at the end I'll just sort of go through what my expectations are. So to begin with, I'm a 29-year-old male. I've had the usual back problems, back surgeries. Some failed, some worked. I've had motorcycle crash, bilateral cervicular radiculopathy, and all the mental health issues that come along with trying to deal with those. In the last year or so, I've had neurological issues that are unresolved. To the surprise of nobody, they can't find out what's wrong with me. They just don't know. I've had about 30 MRIs, and I've sort of been put in the anxiety box, the too hard box. We don't know what's wrong with him. I don't present any sort of normal structural abnormality or anything to that effect. So that's just sort of about me, and yeah, I've had enough pain. I've lived all my adult life nearly in pain, so it's time to do something a little off-label. So I went to the clinic, the pain specialist clinic, for the first time. That went pretty well. So I'm not really that nervous for the ketamine. I'm nervous for the needle. I really don't like getting needles or anything like that. They just feel really, really invasive and they're really painful. I don't care what anyone says, I just hate them. So most of my anxiety is around the nurses trying to find a vein, which they couldn't. And there was a lot of messing around trying to get that. So I was quite anxious. Before you get the treatment, in my instance, I went into a room and there were two other people getting the two other patients. So I was the last in. They sat me down. They gave me lorazepam, I think, and two other things just to calm anxiety and make sure I don't throw up or whatever. So that got me feeling pretty good pretty quick, but I'm very nervous of the needle. So that's kind of got my heart rate up and everything like that. Eventually they find a resolution. They manage to find a vein or whatever. It's a bit like when you want to go traveling abroad. It's meant to be fun and you know it is, but when you go into the airport it's very stressful and you're kind of stuck on the logistics and the deadlines, and you're still thinking about work or whatever, but you know, it doesn't really hit you until you're at your hotel or at the beach or something. You just go, okay, it's all good now. All the other problems just evaporate. And that's pretty much what I felt when the ketamine finally hit. Initially it didn't really feel like it was working, or I wasn't sure. I was kind of like, hey, is this thing on? And I'm quite sensitive to any sort of drug, so I was quite nervous. Eventually it hits me and I just feel really lightheaded. The person next to me is a girl and she's quite light. I'm nearly 100 kilograms, so obviously it's a different dosage for me, but she was getting hit really hard. I could feel the anxiety in her voice. After about 15 minutes I noticed it hit me, and it's kind of like when you get drunk and you go to the toilets by yourself for the first time and you're in the bathroom and you're like, whoa, I'm actually a bit more drunk than I realized. Kind of hit me like that. I just felt weightless, and it was a really clean sort of high. In the medical context, it just felt like an anesthetic. It felt really clean and professional, if that makes sense. It wasn't like a distortion, like, whoa, I'm tripping out. It was just kind of like, okay, all my feelings all the sensations of that have just been dialed right down. I'm just weightless. I'm just in space. So it was a really controlled sort of high, and it just sort of came on. And once it hit, I was just kind of a little bit worried, thinking, well, how much is this a 10 or is this only 2 and we're going right up to 10? So I was a little bit anxious about how sort of intense it was going to get, because we definitely hit lift off after about 15 minutes. In terms of my physical body, I feel weightless and a bit numb. The high is really being experienced in my mind. The person next to me was talking about their heart rate and stuff like that, but the high didn't, for me, it didn't exist in my body. It wasn't like I could feel my heart pumping and focusing on my breaths and sensations. It was more just, it just existed in my mind and only in my mind. We just had YouTube on in front of us, so there was 3 patients and 2 nurses. It was pretty quiet. I could follow along with what the nurses were talking about, even though I didn't want to. I could not overhear them, so I kind of followed along easily with what they were saying. They were just chit-chatting, and I understood what they were saying perfectly, but I didn't really care to listen. I mean, I could if I want. If I didn't want to, I didn't have to. Sometimes I'd go to shuffle around, like move my leg or sort of move, get comfortable, and my body was just kind of like, whoa, hey, the signal's not strong enough. Like, it was just very sluggish. I was having to think quite hard for my body to move. I didn't panic, or it didn't feel like I was in quicksand, but I was just kind of like, hey, like, move. I need to get comfortable. I need to cross my leg or whatever. And it just felt a little more trickier than usual. But in terms of my external environment, nothing made me afraid or anything like that. I was well aware that I was in a clinic, and external noises like sirens from trucks, fire trucks or something going by, didn't freak me out or scare me, or like when it's a dream and you quickly try to create a story to make sense of that stimuli. It was just kind of like, oh, that's an ambulance, and then might hear a car alarm go off down in the distance. I'm like, whatever. So I wasn't really, the external environment didn't scare me or whatever. I was able to process it. I didn't really care. So I didn't really care about my body, and I didn't really care about the environment around me. I knew where I was. I just sort of had this fun, euphoric feeling in my mind, and I just sort of existed within my mind. So let's say I'm half an hour deep into a 2-hour session. At this point, I'm well and truly intoxicated with ketamine. I deliberately didn't really research much about ketamine and all this. I am the research. So at this point, I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling painful sensations. My central nervous system just flinches and clicks and just constantly ticks, and it's hard to explain, and I don't want to go into that, but I could feel that. Even though I felt weightless, I could feel like certain muscle groups just tingling and pulling and all this, and it was weird. It was disappointing as well. I could still feel it, and then I just kind of went, oh, okay, I think I understand this now. I think the pain is kind of like a upstairs neighbor. We're in the same house. There's me, and then there's this other guy, Payne, and we don't really see each other, but we live in the same house. And I'm kind of like, I'm downstairs, I'm in this high, I'm kind of like doing my own thing, and I'm numb, but I can still feel this pervasive symptoms in my body, even though I'm numb. And I'm just kind of like, oh, that's the pain. Pain's like an upstairs neighbor. They're just a nuisance sometimes. We share the building, and I think they're just being a bit disrespectful. So I'm just kind of thinking, it's kind of like 2 people stuck in this body. One of them's me, and I'm like me. I'm sure there's lots of books about meditation and thoughts and everything, but I don't wish to go down that route because I'm not qualified to do so, and it will take very long. But I just kind of realized, like, oh, the pain is, old Mrs. Connolly upstairs, and she's got her point of view, and I've got mine, and I'm just trying to say, hey, like, I've got a broom and I'm knocking on the ceiling. I'm going, hey, look, I know I haven't been the best guy. I know that I've done a lot of stupid things like ride motorbikes and hurt myself and that. But you need to stop making a nuisance, because I understand now, and I will not hurt myself and do stuff that's stupid again. Okay, so that was my first kind of deep sort of thought where I really got in and just saw things from a different angle. So without really being affected by the external environment or anything like that, it's really just the whole universe is just my mind, basically. And it's such a positive sort of euphoric high, because I feel like I'm in control of it, and that's quite good, because that allowed me to not have any anxiety, because I felt like I was in control. For me, when I closed my eyes and switched off all the external stimuli, I had really vivid visualizations. Like I could just visualize like really detailed random things, but that's where I kind of went into think, and I could really freely associate and think very quick and nimbly and from every angle about things. So I noticed when I closed my eyes, I could sort of I could pick, again, I was in control. I could pick like a topic to think about, and I could just, yeah, it was like thinking on steroids. I could just think so quickly and elegantly. And it was also like a trance or a daydream when you're really tired and you're slowly waking up. Sometimes you're having a really good dream and you wake up and you're like, damn. It was kind of like that when I opened my eyes inadvertently. So I would sort of have a trance, and I would close my eyes and I'd be like, yeah, this is great. I'm thinking about this particular part of my life. And when I sort of opened my eyes or like went to readjust my comfort or something, I'd fall out of that one. So it was kind of like, the high was kind of like a swimming pool where I could jump in the pool and I could move around, and I could lunge, or I could do somersaults. I could do these things I can't normally do. But if I decided I didn't want to be in the swimming pool, I could quickly get out, and I could, open my eyes. I could get out of the pool. Okay, I don't want to be in the pool. I want to get out and dry off. I could just sort of be like, okay, brain, like I could suddenly sober up and open my eyes. It's kind of like when something really bad happens when you're drunk. Although I haven't drank for years, suddenly something can snap you out of it and make you sober really quick. So I kind of had that in my back pocket, so that gave me a lot of confidence to sort of deep dive and think about certain things in my life. I had some mantras and affirmations I thought I'd go into, but I just sort of let my mind wander and go wherever it wanted. It was overall, it was good feeling out sort of session, and now I know what to expect. The only moments that I felt that were really pushing the limits were when I went to do something significant, like I went to pull something out of my pocket, or grab the seat control or something, move around. I just felt like, whoa, like the sensory overload. It felt like if you played one of the latest Gears of War, you press X to look at an event like a explosion or something, and it's just like the camera just pans to this thing, and it shakes, and you're just really immersed, and looking at it feels really like intense in 3D. So when I went to sort of do anything significant, it was just kind of like, whoa. Like I was watching Snowpiercer, this film recently, and they quickly look out of this train into a snowstorm, and that you can see a faint outline of an aeroplane on the ground, and you're supposed to look at it, and the camera's like shaking, and you only get this one little quick glance. It just kind of, whoa, it felt like I was looking at something for the first time ever in my life. And that was like when I sort of fell out of the immersion, or fell into it, I don't know. But that was the only like really psychedelic sort of part that I had whenever I suddenly sort of exposed myself to new stimuli, even if it meant literally just looking down at the ground or something. Because for the most of the part, I was just looking straight ahead. I also had to wear a mask because of the mandates in my city, so I couldn't actually see like below me either. So to use an analogy overall, I guess if real life is like a first person shooter where you're running around and you got to take cover and defend yourself and watch for bullets flying over, and you get a feel for where you are, but there's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of noise going on, and there's so much action and stuff like that. Whereas with the ketamine, it's kind of like you're out of the multiplayer online game and you're in the sandbox sort of editor, like mine. What's that game? Minecraft or something? Like you're in the sandbox creator, so you're just floating, and you don't worry about the distractions like getting killed or shooting or teammates or anything like that. You're just in a empty blank map where you just float, and you can look at everything from any angle you possibly want, and you can see everything for exactly as it is without any other distractions. That for me was what it felt like when I closed my eyes. I could think about certain things that are irritating or bothering me, and I could just see that idea, and I could just freely associate, and I could just jump through so many barriers just like that, where normally my thinking would drive me crazy. Like it would whipsaw me this way and that way and this way. It'd be so hard to get to the bottom, to the core of an issue. Like peeling away all those layers would just be so difficult. It'd be so much resistance and barriers and inertia and not knowing which way to go. Whereas with the ketamine, I was just able to just go from like this point to this point like that, and just see it exactly as I want. And that was pretty liberating. So going forward, I guess, like, I felt painful sensations while I was getting the treatment, and I just kind of thought, well, that's just kind of like a part of me, but it's not a part of me I can control. It's just kind of like an inner child. It's just, you don't get upset when a kid does the wrong thing, or calls you a name or something like that. It's just a kid. They don't know any better. So I'm just saying to my inner sort of child, those inner sort of sensations, I'm just saying, hey, like, you can kick and scream all you want, but you're not getting what you want. I know you want to upset and hurt me so that I lead a safe life and I don't, get hit by a massive wave or get hit by a car again or whatever, or do another weightlifting accident. I know you want me to be very boring and safe and save me, but I'm running the show. You're secondary. I'm the landlord. You're just renting here. I don't know. That's sort of the direction I think I'm going to go. So this was day one, just a feeling out process. It was just kind of the first round in an MMA fight. It was just kind of like a feeling out, testing the range, sort of seeing what's on the menu. I'll be back with a follow-up for day two shortly. Thank you.